So we have the statistics from last year about crimes that were committed and the increase in crime compared to 2023. So this is 2024 figures we're talking about. And take, for example, it's very shocking, but it shows the picture because we all know crime is rampant in this country. And people are terrified to go outside their doors. People are terrified to go into the local towns, into the city centre in Dublin. People are mortified. And the country is a mess, and the government achieving, like Fine Gael is supposed to be the party of law and order. There's no law and order in this country. It's lawlessness. It's like quite literally the Wild West. There's no law and order. People like paedophiles literally go into the courts. The judge Nolan gets off scot free with no fully suspended sentences. The whole system is fucked. Excuse my language, but that's the nicest possible way of saying it. And a whole lot of the judges should probably be in prison themselves, because these judges should be probably in prison for this kind of carry on that's happening. Because if we had tough justice system in this country, these crimes wouldn't be happening. But take, for example, larceny and robbery and fraud has increased by 15.3%. Just on last year, 15.3% on robbery and larceny and fraud. Huge. Again, take, for example, robbery. There's a huge epidemic in this country with robbery, people robbing stuff. In shops, particularly in shops across rural Ireland in the city centre, like constantly. I know of one place in County Meath in Navan. The Gardaí might as well live in the shop at this stage, because literally every day they're ringing the Gardaí 3 or 4 times a day about people robbing stuff in their shop. And they shouldn't have to do that, and not to mention there's a financial loss to them, and they have to waste their time ringing up the Gardaí, and not to mention that the Gardaí have to come out and get the people again. But pretty much what's happening here, just to clarify, that the people that are literally doing this, they end up, the Gardaí pick them up right after lifting something, stealing something, and then they go to the guards barracks for a few hours. And then as soon as they get out, they're at it again, pretty much. And then the Gardaí come back and bring them back. So it's pretty much back and forth, like nothing's ever achieved, pretty much. Because the same people are doing the same thing over and over and over and over again and getting off it. It doesn't make much sense. But yeah, take for example in 2023, there was an increase of 8.6% in road traffic offences. This is to do with people running red lights, speeding particularly. It's a danger to society too when people are literally going over the speed limit. Take for example in Cavan, in 2020 there was a man going literally in a 50 kilometre zone 200 and something miles an hour in a 50 kilometre zone. It's a miracle how nobody was killed and how he didn't kill himself by driving at that speed. But it's a disregard to himself, not even that, to society. God forbid if a child or something would have walked out, or God forbid if something went in front of him, he could end up killing 3 or 4 people, innocent people. It's absolutely insane. But take, for example, the amount of cases before the court is literally insane. It's nearly 400,000 cases in 2024 before the courts for all different types. This is to do with the whole justice system. It's quite insane. Like for a small country of 5 point something million, it's literally lunacy. 400,000 cases. Criminal matters presented to the courts last year. It's insane. Public order offences, assault case, we know assault has increased exponentially across the country. Rose by 9.6%. Sexual offences, including rape and stuff like that, rose by 13.6 and 13.6.7%. And of course, there's people literally walking into this country we know nothing about. People would say it's not them, but obviously there's an element of it. Of course, Irish people do commit these crimes. I can point out a few people that are Irish people that have done these crimes. But as I say too, there's an element of people that are turning up to the country with no passports and are committing these crimes, because there's literally no explanation to why that would be so high just in under a year. It doesn't make much sense. Of course, there's Irish people too. I don't mean to say it's all asylum seekers and stuff, because that's simply not true. Simple as that. But the next thing is very upsetting too. The amount of people, the children particularly. There's a 45% increase in applications for supervision and care orders for children over 2 years old. 45% increase, like a terrifying thing to hear. The children are literally being put into care and stuff. And Tusla doesn't know even where the children are when they're put into care. But not even that too, that the children have to go to that stage where they need to be put into care. It shudders to take how dangerous some children live, how much in fear they live. Drug cases is basically through the roof. Of course, everybody knows that. But look at, as I said, we could go on and on. Domestic violence cases are just, take for example this number. It was 25,270 particularly domestic violence cases before the courts, which is about 25, which is insane. Just even for if you hit your partner, take for example, or whatever. Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. Really, really is. But it just goes to show you, and it's a sad thing to say, but the country is not safe, and the whole place has gone mad a bit. But the only way to really solve this, and again, I think the majority of people would agree with me, is being very tough, because obviously taking the easy approach and stuff, and being nice and nice achieves nothing. Because the judges are doing that, and they're pretty much going and doing the same thing over and over again. So the only way to do it is harsh sentences. And of course, in terms of people that are robbing and stuff, that should be go out and do a bit of work. In terms of community service, doing hard physical labour. Because I know a lot of people who work construction, who work different jobs. Take for example me, I work on the roads. It's tough work going. It's physical work, you're not sitting in an office or anything, or sitting on the door. But take for example, you have to go out and do a day's work, get up early in the morning, do a day's work. We should make these people who commit these crimes go out and do a hard day's work, picking up rubbish or doing something for the community, building community projects, etc. Hard physical labour, and make them work hard. But that's the only way to do it, because hard work never killed anybody, to be totally honest. And in these cases, they should be, because what I mean to say by that is they should be working hard if they commit a crime against society, and not even that, pay back society for the crime, and not even that too, that they won't have the energy to commit a crime, because they simply won't. Because if you're carrying heavy blocks to build, say, a garden shed, a community garden shed or something, you won't have the energy to go out and rob a place, because you'll be dead by the time you get home, because literally you wouldn't be fit to. You wouldn't have the energy to go and burgle houses or rob stuff, because literally you'd be falling to the ground because you'd be that exhausted and tired. That's what we suggest here, and obviously, of course, in terms of sentences, in terms of sexual offences, people who need to be deported should be deported, of course, for them crimes. But not even that too. In terms of even people going to prison, should be very, very long sentences, extremely long sentences. If somebody commits, take for example, a sexual offence when they're 30, 35, something like that, give or take, they shouldn't be coming out until they're 50 or 60. Half of their life pretty much gone. But as I say too, even them people that are going into prison, they should be made to go out and do a bit of work in society. Obviously under supervision. I'm not saying just let them out and let them go wild. No, under supervision, like they do in America. Chain gangs going to clean up highways and stuff around this country. Pay back the evil deeds to society. Give pretty much society. We pay society for their deeds, what I'm trying to say. But yeah, of course we have to be a lot more tougher. In terms of fines too for road traffic offences, we should be very tough. And in terms of that case, who Efferson and Calvin, that person should never get a licence again, should never be allowed to own a car, let no do anything like that, for literally the disregard to the general public, not even to himself, just the general public. We could go on and on and on and on and on and on, but I'm sure you get the gist that if we don't nip this in the bud now, in God forbid in 10 years' time, Jesus Christ, the whole country will be hectic. But again, the main thing, the last thing what they say is, imagine they want to bring in hate speech laws in this country to thought crime, to basically enforce thought crime. And then obviously everything else is going off the wall in terms of the crimes being committed and stuff. But they want to enforce thought crime if you take too much. That's what they want to do. That's the main priority of the government. Instead of, we should stop all this crime happening and not worry about thought crime. We focus on real crime that's actually happening in society. But no, they're too busy worrying about thought crime. It doesn't make any sense, but logic doesn't persist. But anyway, let me know what you think. It is a sad thing to talk about. I wish it was going down. But again, the majority of people know it's going to continue going up and up and up, going up. Because the system is broken and the system is fucked. And it's a sad thing to say, but it's the truth. And again, and behind all this statistics, just to say, because again, it's all about people. There's victims behind this. Take for example, in every robbery case, in every sexual assault case, in every assault case, there's always a victim. There's always a person who's affected. There's a family, there's a victim. Same with murder cases and stuff. There's always somebody behind it. There's a family, there's friends, there's neighbours that are affected. There's a community that's been affected in terms of these. And it's important to keep that in mind. It's not just statistics on a page. It is reality, and it's life, and it is what's happening around us as people that are suffering. And I think it's important. I think we're losing draft of what we should be doing in societies. But anyway, let me know, take subscribe and one bye.